Throughout television history, there's never been a show that captured the same spirit as Hogan's Heroes. In its prolific 168-episode run, it was the longest-running show set in World War II to ever hit the small screen. Created by Bernard Fein and Albert S. Ruddy, it followed the story of an Allied group of prisoners who were running a special operations group all the while under Nazi lock and key. Each week, they would attempt to escape Nazi custody and would fail in some kind of humorous way. Bob Crane played the part of Colonel Robert E. Hogan, who was the primary coordinator of this ragtag group. Weiner Klemperer played the easily fooled commandant of the encampment, Wilhelm KLINK. John Banner starred as the endearing yet buffoonish Sergeant Hans Schultz. The show ran for over 5 years, starting in 1965, and through the course of its seasons, it was honored with 12 Emmy nominations. Werner Klemperer would win 2 for his part of Colonel KLINK. As acclaimed and beloved as Hogan's Heroes was, there are probably quite a few shocking things you didn't know about it. Today, we're going to take a look at these little-known secrets. Make sure you stick around until the end of the video to find out how this show was changed before it finally aired in Germany. Facts First presents Hogan's Heroes Set Secrets, 12 Things You Didn't Know. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel. By tapping on the bell icon, you can turn notifications on so you never have to miss another one of our videos again. So let's get down to business and start uncovering some of the little-known facts about Hogan's Heroes that are going to change the way you look at the show forever. Originally, the show was set in an American prison. Despite never making it past the pilot stage, NBC had developed a show entitled Campo 44 with a premise very similar to Hogan's Heroes. The main difference was that their show would be set in an Italian prisoner of war camp and not a German one. Meanwhile, Albert Ruddy and Bernard Fein were working on a show concept of their own, but their situational comedy would take place in an American prison. When they learned of Campo 44's premise, they would quickly get to work adapting their show to incorporate competitive elements. It apparently only took Ruddy a single day to rework his entire pitch for the German WW2 setting, but that shouldn't come as a surprise. Ruddy is, after all, the genius mind behind The Godfather and $1 Million Baby. Richard Dawson had fully intended for his character to have a thick Liverpool accent. Corporal Peter Newkirk, played by Richard Dawson, had a different vision of his character than Ruddy had. Initially, Dawson would audition for the lead role of Hogan, but unfortunately, his American accent was rather atrocious. As a consolation prize, he got to play the Colonel. He really wanted to do a strong Liverpool accent, but no one else on the production team would support the idea. He was told no one would be able to understand him, so he scrapped the accent for a Cockney one. The joke was on the producers who doubted him. The British invasion would bring the likes of a certain John, Paul, Ringo, and George to the world stage, and suddenly everyone would be obsessed with the Liverpool dialect. Dawson no doubt scoffed, "I told you so," to the producers. There was at one point going to be an underground steam room in Stalag 13. Although the prison camp that the show would be set in was based upon a real location in Hammelburg, Germany, in real life the camp was far less intricate. The show depicts it as having a web of tunnels and hidden doors and was decked out with all sorts of amenities. The real camp would be cold, stone, drab, and morbid. Initially, Stalag 13 was even going to be equipped with a steam room, as absurd as that may sound. It was scrapped, however, for being much too unrealistic. The Nazis were all played by Jewish people. After fleeing from the Nazis in WW2, Klemperer, who played KLINK, Leon Askin, who played Burkhalter, and John Banner, who played Schultz, all wound up in show business. Howard Kane, who played Hochstetter, would be the fourth actor of Jewish descent to play the role of a Nazi in Hogan's Heroes. There was one final Jewish Nazi, Robert Clary, who played Corporal LeBeau. Clary was actually imprisoned in a concentration camp during the war. He cited his experiences, as horrific as they may have been, as a basis for his ability to tap into his role. It no doubt was a mind-boggling task to put themselves into the perspective of the enemy. When a group of people wants to eradicate your ethnic group and culture, they don't typically become the ones you want to imitate. However, every actor on the show delivered powerful performances regardless of the sensitive subject material. The show had an awful catchphrase. Hogan's Heroes is very obviously a satirical comedy. It takes an awful situation full of doom and gloom and turns it into fertile ground for a lighthearted comedy. That's much of its appeal, actually. Some wouldn't look too fondly on the show's premise, and this less than affirming sentiment would be further enforced by a slogan that was used for the show that seemed that war was in some shape or form fun. The phrase in question came from an interview between Bob Crane and a reporter for the Sunday Times, which was published on September 19, 1965. In the interview, Crane was attempting to describe the premise of the show to Freeberg, but he decided to continually make wisecracks throughout the discussion. Freeberg would say at one point, "Shall we say, if you liked World War II, you'll love Hogan's Heroes?" Crave, very uncomfortably, would reply, "No, let's not say that, no." He thought the joke was insensitive and offensive and that the horrors of war shouldn't be made light of. Despite Crane's respectable intentions, the phrase would repeatedly be used to describe the show until it went into syndication, where it would eventually be phased out. Hogan's Heroes cast would release a musical album together. The show's success meant that efforts would be made to capitalize on its mass appeal, because why not squeeze every last penny out of something when you can? Clary, Dawson, Larry Hovis, and Ivan Dixon, all the supporting roles, would come together to do a musical album with themselves singing famed songs from World War II. In addition to possibly being one of the strangest albums in history, it had really disturbing liner notes. On the back reads the cringe-worthy words, "Would you believe World War II was funny?" Just a little side note, if you come across this album, make sure you pick it up. It's worth quite a bit these days. The theme music had lyrics. The marchy and insistent instrumental theme music, which opened and concluded each episode, actually had lyrics. On the aforementioned album, Hogan's Heroes sing the best of World War II. The lyrics are sung as, "Heroes, heroes, husky men of war, sons of all the heroes of the war before. We're all heroes up to our eros. You ask the questions, we make suggestions. That's what we're heroes for." They go on for another 3 verses, but you get the gist. The car used in the show was one of a very limited run. In the very first episode, and then seen throughout the series, driven by General Burkhalter, a Mercedes-Benz W31 was used. This 3-axle vehicle could be taken off-road, but was generally used by Nazi higher-ups at parades and events to flaunt their social status. It was a wildly expensive vehicle to produce, so only 57 were ever made. It was also available in only one color scheme, black and gray. Of the few that were produced, only 3 survive to this day. One went to a Spanish royal family, the other was converted into a fire truck, and the last one ended up on Hollywood, which is exactly how it got on Hogan's Heroes. KLINK was a classically trained musician. Even though in the show it would become a recurring joke that KLINK was awful at the violin, in reality, Werner Klemperer was a classically trained musician with quite a bit of talent. This makes a lot of sense, seeing that his father was Otto Klemperer, who would be described as the last of the few really great conductors of his generation. The fact that KLINK was actually such an accomplished musician from such talented lineage made the running gag all the more humorous. The set would literally be blown up. In the Nazi exploitation flick Ilsa, She-Wolf of the SS, the set of Hogan's Heroes would be blown to smithereens for the film's fateful final scene. The production team wouldn't protest this fate as it would save them money on demolition costs. When Ilsa was released in 1975, it was met with considerable controversy. Although it was a trashy B film and was panned by critics at the time, it has garnered somewhat of a cult following over time for fans of grindhouse-style exploitation flicks. It features lovely themes such as torture, castration, human experimentation, and gratuitous violence. In addition, it was packed full of risque sexuality and near nudity. We wonder what Hogan would have thought about all this. The cast would all star in a movie together in 1968. In the film The Wicked Dreams of Paula Schultz, Crane, Banner, Askin, and Klemperer would all co-star with each other in a film about a pole vaulter from East Germany that decides she would rather defect and vault over the Berlin Wall into West Germany rather than play in the Olympics. Crane plays a black market smuggler who keeps her safe until he sells her out back to the East. He then realizes he's made an awful mistake and disguises himself as a female athlete to go find her and get her back. Here's another random piece of trivia for your useless knowledge folder. Quentin Tarantino pays a little homage to this film in his movie Kill Bill Volume 2. When Uma Thurman is buried alive, her gravestone reads Paula Schultz. The show wouldn't be aired in Germany until after the fall of the wall in 1992. Despite taking place in Germany, it was deemed too controversial to air there until after the fall of the Berlin Wall in 1991. Even though it took over 25 years to get to German television, the show would see changes for the differing market. Right off the bat, all the Nazi characters were reworked to be even more asinine, and KLINK was given a very special girlfriend that we hear but never see. She would go by the silly name Kalinka. One of the most interesting facts about this German reworking of the show was the title. It translated to Barbed Wire and Heel, but was later renamed to A Cage Full of Heroes. The show never quite saw the same popularity that it would in the States and Western Europe. Maybe it was just too soon. Well, that wraps up our revealing look at Hogan's Heroes. Now we'd like to hear from you. Who was Hogan's Heroes' standout character? Do you resonate with Bob Crane as Robert Hogan, or are you more of a Colonel Klink kind of person? Let us know what you think in the comments section below. And as always, make sure you subscribe to Facts First for more videos.